So, as with San Diego Comic-Con, let's discuss what we think we're going to get. What I've predicted here is a Daredevil release date,
Yeah,
and
I can see it, yeah.
I've got an extended wish of a teaser trailer or trailer.
I was kind of similar. Like, I expect a date, and I'd like a teaser.
I'm going to tell you off the rip which one my favourite episode was, and I bet you can't tell me why it was my favourite episode.
It's going to be episode 8.
Okay, why?
Because they referenced Amazon want diversity in their shows. They essentially forced Workshop's hand to write into the law females being part of a certain Legion of Soldiers that were notoriously have always been written as they are brothers, they are all men. There is plenty of legions in Warhammer where there is factions of women that are badass. But apparently Amazon didn't like them because they were too religious focused. Sorry, but Warhammer 40k is all about religion.
Hello and welcome to episode 126 of Cutscene Convos. We have got a very busy episode this week. We have got our character profile on the one and only Billy Butcher. We'll be covering the second half of Batman Caped Crusader.
Yes.
We'll be talking through our D23 predictions. We will be discussing the lengths of series on TV these days. We have many opinions. And of course, the Nerd News Network is bumping this week. But before all that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week been, my friend?
My week's been pretty good. I think when we last recorded, I was talking about how I'd been doing the bathroom, my parents' bathroom. Finished that off over the weekend. Well, over the Thursday, Friday. Yeah, all done, all solid. They're pleased with it. Looks good. I'm happy with what I've done. Hopefully, it's fine. It holds up. I'm causing any issues. I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, it looks much better. So happy with that. Then what have I done? Played a bit of Rust over the weekend. I'm kind of on a routine of playing them every weekend, a wipe. This wipe went well. Unfortunately, the server run just kind of like died off really quickly for some reason this week. Don't know why. So it's like after a day when the player base is down, you're like, there's kind of nothing happening on this server. And those sorts of games need like high player count.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I'm playing a bit more TFT. As we were discussing before recording, I'm on a desire for an MMO at the moment. So I've been like, what MMO is coming out soon?
Scouring.
Seems Throne and Liberty is the next one, which I'm willing to give a go. People in the MMO space will probably already know of that game, and it's got mixed opinions. It's free to play, so why not give it a try? There's a lot of talk around Ashes of Creation again, but that's still way off. But yeah, there's not really many at the moment, which is a shame. And Once Human's still kind of, I think it's only in week 4 at the moment, so it's got 2 more weeks before it wipes and before I find out what's going on with that. Though I'm not very hopeful, I'll be honest. And then we've been playing X Defiant. Still. Yeah, pretty chill week. Not as hot either this week. It's been a cooler week, which has been nice. But yeah, that's been my week. How's your week been?
My week's been alright. Back to work this week. So just chaos, and more chaos. There was fear mongering of a riot potentially happening outside my front door. Yeah, didn't happen. I wasn't. It's always easy to go, oh yeah, I wasn't worried, and I wasn't overtly worried because I was very aware that there was no real evidence. It was just rumor milling. I was more worried about my neighbours. Like where I live is a lovely, diverse area, and I was like, if people do kick off here, I will feel a need to defend my neighbours.
Yeah.
And I've got a cricket bat and I can swing hard, but
yeah,
so there was a little bit of concern around that, but nothing happened in the end. But yeah, it's just been a weirdly quiet week. We didn't have any hot water from Sunday morning till yesterday afternoon, which wasn't ideal. Fortunately, we have a good friend who's an electrician who came out and he was able to fix the fault very easily. Yes, always handy to have tradesmen who you know and you trust as well. So yeah, but other than that, it's been very uneventful week. After like a busy week off, I find that going back to work, you do find yourself like nothing's really happening. But busy weekend coming up as we've got a engagement party we're going to for Jenna's sister, and it's also my sister's birthday this tomorrow, and just crazy weekend coming up. So fuck knows what I'm gonna do, but we'll see. We'll get through. But let us waste no more time and get into our character profile.
Let's.
I believe this is our second to last boys character profile that I'm going to be doing for a while.
Okay.
And it's of course Billy Butcher, the leader of the boys. So let's jump right in. Of course, standard concerns about the R-rated nature of the boys universe. William J. Butcher, aka Billy Butcher, first appeared in The Boys #1, October 2006. Billy was born in the East End of London and had a younger brother. The pair of brothers were incredibly close in large part due to their shared childhood trauma of spending lots of time listening to their father routinely beat their mother over trivial disputes. This troubled upbringing caused Billy to become a problem child at school, regularly getting into fights and shouting abuse at teachers. This behaviour only escalated as Billy grew up, always getting him in trouble, until eventually one night he decided he would kill his father to spare his mother any more abuse. However, his younger brother, Lenny, caught him and stopped him, explaining that he didn't want to lose his big brother forever. Billy explained he couldn't stand it any longer and had to leave, and that he would follow in their maternal grandfather's footsteps of joining the Royal Marines. Billy joined the Royal Marines and was deployed to the Falklands in the middle of the Falkland War. It was here Billy would get his first experience of taking a life, and his behaviour would deteriorate even further until he was discharged from service for his constant disobeying of orders, as well as his drinking issues and fighting issues. This habit of getting drunk and getting into fights would only worsen when he returned to London. That was until he met a woman, Becky Saunders. While on the tube, they struck up a conversation about his badly bruised face from his most recent drunken brawl, and they arranged to go out for lunch the following week. During that lunch, the two of them hit it off, even enabling Butcher to open up about his past, and this led to the two falling madly in love. With the help of Becky, Billy and Lenny finally convinced their mother to leave their father. This confirmed to Billy how great Becky was, and he proposed. They went on to marry and live an incredibly happy life, with William being able to stop drinking and turn his life around. Until they went on holiday to Miami, where they saw the Seven. During this trip, unknown to Billy, Becky was raped by Homelander. Becky became withdrawn from the relationship, and upon returning to England, Butcher was worried he had done something to sour the relationship. However, before he could begin to try and remedy anything he'd done, he was awoken to Becky dying as a premature fetus used its laser vision to cut its way out of her. Butcher beat the fetus to death with a lamp when it tried to attack him. He was then approached by Greg Mallory of the CIA, who showed Butcher Becky's diary, which detailed what happened to her in Miami, and he used this to recruit Butcher to joining him in taking down soups around the world. Mallory became aware of the situation when Butcher was told by the British police that he had to keep this all quiet and go with their version of events. This resulted in Butcher blinding one of the officers. They travelled the world, keeping an eye on Supes, and they also began recruiting and increasing their numbers. They recruited members such as Mother's Milk, the Frenchman, and the Female. Each teammate got enhanced with Compound V to help the fight, and Butcher branded them the Boys. In the early 2000s, around 2001, 2002, the team would be disbanded. When Billy became aware of Huey Campbell's situation, he recruited him and relaunched the Boys and their mission to maintain and control Supes. This mission morphed over time, however. Once he'd eventually killed Homelander and Black Noir after it was discovered that Noir was in fact a Homelander clone who had committed the atrocities against Becky, Butcher then changed the plan even further upon beating them when he decided everyone with superpowers had to die. This resulted in him killing other members of the Boys until Huey managed to stop and kill Butcher himself. Brutal story. Obviously, the timeline of that is very different to what we get in The Boys. Purely because Butcher's supposed to be 40 in The Boys comic, meaning he would have been 20 during the Falklands. That all lines up.
Yeah.
Now I imagine if they were to work out his history, he might have served in Iraq or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Billy's had a much smaller amount of his story changed compared to some of the other characters.
Yeah. I feel it's more just around like Becky and how that all went down and got changed.
Yeah. The biggest like weird change that didn't seem to make any sense to me was changing it from Becky to Becca.
Yeah, but
that was just a weird one, but that is what it is. But the tragedy around Lenny and how shit his father was and all that stuff is all very, very similar. And we are also seeing Butcher now get to the point where he's like, it's not about stopping Homelander and stopping the bad Supes. All Supes must die.
Yeah. And obviously the tumor and stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, very cool.
On to Batman. Caped Crusader. 5 to 10.
6 through 10.
6 through 10, you're correct. I'm going to tell you off the rip which one my favourite episode was, and I bet you can't tell me why it was my favourite episode.
It's going to be episode
8. Okay, why?
Because they referenced 2 of the Robins.
Wrong, they referenced 4.
Oh. I didn't know there was 4. I picked up on Dixon and Jason.
Yeah, so you had Dickie, who was obviously Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
Then you had Jason or Jace, which was supposed to be
Jason Todd.
Yeah. Then you had Stephanie. Stephanie Brown is another one of the Bat fam.
Oh, right.
I don't think she was ever technically Robin. I might be wrong on that.
Okay.
But she was part of the Bat fam.
Right.
And then the last little kid with the slingshot, Carrie, was Robin in the Dark Knight Returns comic.
Oh.
Which I saw Dick first. I was like, the way that hair's done is really Dick Grayson-esque. That's a cool little thing. And I was like, oh, Jason with the red hair. And then when they said Steffi Brown, I was like, oh, okay, they're definitely doing this on purpose. This is awesome. So the only thing I would have rather is that episode ending with Bruce like, I want to adopt all 4 of them.
Well, so I picked up on, I think it's like by the second kid with Jason, I was like, hang on, and well, he was like Jace, and then it said Jason. I was like, wait, the first kid was Dickie. Oh, they're doing the Robins. This is either them hinting at the future use of these kids, or it's just them being like, here's a reference. I didn't know about the other 2, but yeah, I thought it was very cool. And I mean, there is still
was also really cool.
Yeah, there's still potential that they do get used as Robins.
Yeah.
They're in an orphanage.
I think the second half of this season is really strong, even compared to the first half.
Yeah,
I feel like the stories in the second half, they like them first few episodes is very much, they are individual insular stories. But they're like, this is the vibe we're setting up here. Get used to it. Get used to the characters. And then the second half, they're like, okay, you know how these episodes go now. Let's tell some stories we want to tell.
Well, yeah, they started to, some of those characters who'd been introduced in the first 5 started getting weaved into a bit more of a central kind of story arc that was going on.
Yeah.
Um,
I really enjoyed the use of Gentleman Ghost and getting to see Bruce kind of doubting the supernatural a little bit, because he's such a young Batman and because of the era, it makes sense to doubt it a little bit.
Yeah, I liked how he just presumed it was some guy behind it all. Like, 'cause
He
that's
was like,
kind
it's
of
a Scooby-Doo villain.
yeah, which he definitely gave that vibe even for me as a viewer. I was like, oh, this is like an episode of Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I enjoyed how he kind of it's kind of the first introduction to something more than just like your standard villain who is either crazy or has a little bit of powers. And how he had to deal with that. I also thought
Yeah.
it was just also, I'm guessing, I don't know if you have the answer, the guy that he got to help him in defeating Gentleman Ghost, the voodoo-y guy, is he a set important character in the Bat franchise?
I'm not aware of him being in the Bat franchise. What I will say is DC actually has a really, really good, solid cast of kind of mystical characters. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a character they've adapted from that or taken
Fair.
from that. I don't know a lot about that side of DC though, so I wouldn't be confident
Just
saying
the
yes
way
or no.
that it kind of like at the end, the bit of a focus on him, like a boon for a boon thing. I was
Yeah,
like, maybe this is meant to be a character you recognize, but I don't know.
yeah. It was really cool. So what were our villains in the second half? We had
So it was Gentleman Goes to start. That was episode 6.
yeah. Oh, then we had like the Hitman episode, didn't we?
Yeah. So who is the guy with the mask?
So that is Onomatopoeia.
Okay, I don't know that.
He's a really, really niche villain, and it took me a second to get who it was, and that's why he didn't speak. He made the noises.
Right. I
Obviously-
enjoyed that.
Onomatopoeia is obviously the
Yeah.
word for a word that's written how it sounds.
Yeah.
And it was weird, but I kind of really digged it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because it was almost like, in a way, almost like breaking the fourth wall when he was doing the punching. He's like, pow, wah. Like,
Yeah.
it's like how they used to be written in comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed that.
That was really cool. That was also just a good episode overall. Like, ignoring even Onomatopoeia, which is, I feel like a deep cut for a lot of people. Just the flow of that episode altogether, I thought was really good. Did you also catch who the first Hitman was?
No.
Floyd Lawton, Deadshot.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he's going to come back because he was only
would assume
injured.
so.
Well, they said he's in
Yeah.
hospital recovering, so I feel like
Yeah.
that sets him up to return.
I might be wrong here again. My lore isn't as strong. I feel like that is going back to like his Bronze Age lore, pretty
Right.
accurate to what happened. He had tried to commit an assassination. He got shot in the process, and that made him a bit more gritty. And he like tried a lot harder. He was like, "Well, I'm never going to miss again. I'm going to get better." Blah 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 blah. And then obviously we had like the double bill at the end of dealing with the Two-Face storyline.
Yes.
I will say I wasn't a massive fan of the Two-Face design.
I didn't hate it because I feel like it fit within the art style that this episode is.
I do get that. My problem is, and this is a problem that superhero medium as in general has an issue with, disabled people being villains and being portrayed as monsters is a big problem. And obviously you can't get rid of these characters, they've been around for so long. But that's kind of why I tend to lean towards the more like designed version.
Got you.
Where it's like Two-Face is like traditional complexion, then it's just like kind of like coloured in purple on the other side.
Yeah, I get
Instead of being grotesque.
I get you.
And then, I mean, there's discussions on both sides. Thematically, I think it fits. I just am not as big a fan of that design. I did like the way they portrayed the split personality of Two-Face.
Yeah, no,
and it being more like Harvey Dent was trapped in there.
Yeah, I enjoyed how they went about that and how it kind of escalated.
Absolutely. I
Also,
will be
like
honest.
it
Go on.
being weaved through the whole season of him being like this lawyer and stuff really kind of helped sell it as well.
Yeah. I was really expecting
Go on.
Barbara to get shot and paralyzed at some point.
Oh,
Because Barbara is Oracle in the comics as well as Batgirl
Mm.
at different times. I
Right,
don't know what she
okay.
is at the minute. And when she's Oracle, traditionally is when she's been disabled and she's in a wheelchair.
Got you.
And she becomes like Overwatch for Batman, and with her relationship building with Batman, and then handcuffing herself to Harvey, I was like, this might, because in the comics she gets disabled due to an attack from the Joker, which
Right.
is a pretty controversial way they did it at the time.
Okay.
That made a lot of people kind of like, you probably didn't need to do it that way. It kind of borders on fridging a little bit if Barbara wasn't such an established character.
Right.
So people weren't a big fan of that. So I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have tried to spin it a different way, but have the same outcome, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think it finished really solidly. I enjoyed watching Bruce and Alfred's relationship also get to the point where it's less, you're my butler, you have to do what I say. And it's more they're kind of like cooperators now.
I need you to do this sort of job.
That felt good.
And going back to the bar thing, I enjoyed how they slowly ramped up that relationship. I also thought it was funny because it's like when she says, "Is there a way? I need a way to contact you." I was like, "Oh, this is how they're going to set up the bat signal." Fully expected that to be the thing, and then he's like, "Yeah, I've got a phone number." It's like, oh.
So it felt like a lot of this show was kind of callbacks to like the 1960s Adam West Batman.
Right.
Because in that there wasn't the bat signal.
Oh, okay.
There was the red phone that was in the Batcave that would ring. And they had, so the map that they were using a lot of the time in the Batcave is very similar or basically identical to the map that they used in the 1960s Adam West Batman. Right. And also, I didn't realise it at the time either, but you know, in Harley Quinn's dungeon, you had all the people in weird costumes. A lot of them costumes were inspired by villains who appeared in Adam West's 1960 Batman show. So one of them was stylized based on Cesar Romero's Joker.
Right.
One of them was, but the Pharaoh dude was based on one of the characters. I forget his name from Adam West's show. So lots of like these were around the same kind of time period. So they kind of also will fit thematically with what we're doing here.
Do we? I'm presuming you're on the same mindset of the teaser at the end is Joker.
That's absolutely Joker, yeah.
Yeah.
I was very curious about his voice, though. That was a very menacing voice rather than kind of.
So I think they're going to show us a bit of a like turn into more of a Joker we recognize. So
here's the thing. There is a very famous story called The Three Jokers. And basically, the entire premise is there's not actually been one Joker the whole time. There's been three.
Right.
But they've all pretended to be one guy. And this was kind of used as an in-universe reason for why the Joker's character isn't consistent. And basically, you've got one that's the clown.
Yep.
That just kind of does the wacky shit, and that's kind of more like your 60s version. Then you've got the gangster. Which is like more brutal and more organized. And then you've got the comedian, I think the other one was called. And he was more of like the Mark Hamill kind of Joker, where he did weird, wacky shit, but was a little bit organized, but cracked a lot more jokes.
Yeah, a bit unhinged.
And this version that we saw at the very end of the show seemed more like the gangster version. A lot more cold, a lot more calculated.
Thinking about the world they're setting up, the fact that Penguin's currently locked up and this Fawn is kind of his whole empire has been damaged after all the whole Two-Face stuff. It would make sense that they'd be like, oh, well, a gangster Joker would fit well into this situation.
Also, did you catch during the Carnival episode 8, that Killer Croc was one of the attractions?
Oh, is that who it was?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Killer Croc. So they've done a very good job. they've laid the groundwork to get renewed for a second season. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
if it's confirmed or not. Is
I-
Batman?
I fully see this having at least 3 seasons if all going well. Like they've set up enough storylines off this first season that I think they could easily do 2 more. With characters coming back.
My only concern is I haven't seen much discussion about it. So if it's underperformed numbers wise, it might just get thrown by the wayside.
Yeah, potentially. Depends on, I guess, what James Gunn wants to do, really.
Oh, season 2 got greenlit before season 1 was even released.
Oh, well, there we go then. That's
so
good.
by the sounds of it, unless this like absolutely bombs in their estimations, season 2's already been greenlit and will probably be a decent way through production.
Which, going off the Joker teaser, we know Harley Quinn's disappeared. I feel like the main story arc of season 2 might be around Joker and Harley.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you've got potential for other characters to return in like a season 3.
Yeah. But I'd give it a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. I think it really it gives the right kind of story for the time period it's set in.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do anything immaculate. I think it captures the character of the Batman really well.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of weird discussions online about his use of a gun in the last episode, but it was also very much Batman actively not shooting someone, proving that he wouldn't. And it's also a very young Batman. And going back to the very, very early comics of the Batman in the 40s, he did use a gun.
Yeah, I from my point of view, it was very much like he had the gun. I was like, no way they're going to do a Batman that's like gone dark and starts using guns. Like, surely not. And then he does all the shots that's around him. I'm like, oh, it's showing his like resolve of no, I'm not going to use guns. It's just that he's young and he's on that, like you said, he's on the edge of, he's still young, still figuring it out. Like, part of him wants to use a gun there, but he also has enough control of himself that he's like, no, I'm not going to go stoop that low. And I think it's just to try and show a bit of character building. So people that are complaining about that, I think it just didn't quite get the message it was trying to tell.
What I will say is a lot of the people who complain seem to be fans of a certain director who people weren't impressed when he had his Batman shooting people. So I think they're more kind of going, oh, but it's okay now, forgetting the context of this is Batman like a month into his career versus that director who had a Batman who'd already had Jason Todd die.
Yeah.
In all fairness. But overall, I enjoyed the show. I'm looking forward to the second season. It was actually a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and
kind of storytelling wise.
Nice to get some animated DC. If
it
anything,
really was.
It's got me more excited for Creatures Commando.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to season 2 of that, and hopefully it does get a few more seasons before maybe it needs to be kind of set down for DC's own thing, like the DCU thing to come along.
And once again, animation on Prime Video thriving.
Yeah, it really is.
This weekend, D23.
Yes, just
it's
a couple weeks
time of year again.
after we've had Comic-Con. We're now going to D23. It's all happening.
So, as with San Diego Comic-Con, let's discuss what we think we're going to get. Obviously, there will be no DC news.
No, shockingly.
It'll be Marvel and Disney, Marvel and Star Wars, rather.
Yeah.
I mean, there will be Disney news, but we don't care about that.
Yeah, we'll be focused on the important stuff.
So, let's have a little chat about what we think we might get, what we're hoping to get, and go from there.
Now, I feel like this is a bit easier now we've had Comic-Con, because we know what we got. We've seen what we got from that. We know what we kind of hoped maybe for that we didn't get. So, do you want to start with Marvel or Star Wars?
Let's start with Marvel.
Okay. I am pretty certain we're going to see something from Daredevil.
Yes. What I've predicted here is a Daredevil release date.
Yeah,
and
I can see
I've got an extended wish of a teaser trailer or trailer.
I was kind of similar. Like I expect a date, and I'd like a teaser, even if it's just like a very, very short, like first look teaser. I think I think we're pretty safe in expecting something like that, considering we know it's wrapped and everything. So
yeah. Next up, something I'm very confident we're gonna get.
Okay.
An Agatha second trailer.
Oh, I completely forgot about Agatha. Yeah.
Because we've already had the first trailer, and I'm pretty sure we have a release date already. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, I think you're right. We definitely should get an Agatha second trailer then.
Release date. Yeah, it's due to come out 18th September.
Oh, okay.
So
Then, yeah,
we're
for
like
sure.
a month away. I'd be amazed if we don't get an extended / second trailer.
Yeah, agreed. I'd completely forgot about Agatha. Yeah, but yeah.
Next up is one I think a lot of people have forgotten about.
Okay.
Wonder Man.
So I mentioned that for San Diego Comic-Con prediction.
Yes. But this is a show, so it's more likely to be held for D23.
True.
We know it's wrapped filming.
Mm.
We know there is basically no hype around it.
Yeah.
It would make a lot of sense for Disney to, even if it's not coming out till early next year, to just kind of go, here's a trailer, here's a release date, start getting excited for this.
Yeah, or some more like first look images, or something just to build some hype.
Because I assume Wonder Man will be sitting under spotlight, whereas Daredevil and Agatha, I don't think will sit under spotlight.
That sort of fits it. I put down, I expect we'll get some sort of official new spotlight, like what's next for the spotlight, which obviously then could be Wonder Man, thinking about it. So yeah, I think you're right there. Spider-Man Homecoming in the animated realm.
Oh, freshman year or whatever.
Freshman year, sorry, not Homecoming.
I can't even remember what
it keeps changing its name.
Yeah, all I've got written down
the animated
here is
Spider-Man
animation update. I don't know what their roadmap's looking like. I know they've said they're only looking to do 1 or 2 animated projects a year. And the expectation was we're getting the next season of X-Men 97 next year.
Yeah.
Eyes of Wakanda is due to come out soon. I think that's due the end of this year, maybe.
Yeah.
So it could be Eyes of Wakanda trailer.
True.
And then these are the release dates for Spider-Man and X-Men 97 season 2.
Yeah, we know we've got another What If season coming.
Yes, we do. The last one came out last Christmas, so they might go, that's coming this Christmas.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they announce another What If. Also, going back to shows, because we still don't know if it's a film or a show, Armor Wars.
Yeah, I can't remember what the most up-to-date rumour on that is. I think the rumour is that it's now a film. But I don't know. Without getting an updated timeline like we were hoping for at San Diego Comic-Con, it's really confusing.
I think we might get the updated slate at D23, because now if they've announced a few of the shows, that kind of has announced a few things they can then go. Because if they'd done a slate, it would have maybe spoiled things for D23.
So what I kind of put was some kind of roadmap for Disney Plus content for 2025. I don't know if we'll get more than that, but we can probably use that to fill in the gaps of the MCU slate a little bit.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do an MCU slate.
Like one, because with the amount of changes to stuff, it would be nice to know what's actually happening.
Because you've also got to think Disney's going to want to try and get some attention on D23. Like, keeping the MCU slate for their own thing is a good way to be like, oh, this got announced at D23.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm expecting kind of Daredevil, Agatha, Wonder Man, and then maybe Eyes of Wakanda, What If, X-Men 97, and Spider-Man. They would be the things I'd expect. Not all of them, but that is the pool that I'm most likely to see. Anything outside of that Marvel-wise would be a surprise to me.
I have one very grand wish that is probably not going to happen. A Marvel Visions. So like we love from Star Wars, where they get the different studios get to do their own art style. And I've said it for a while, I want a Marvel version of that. I'd love if they announced that, but I don't think they will. But
I would lose my mind. You know how badly I want that, with some of the really cool characters Marvel has to offer.
You could do a really fun one with Aardman. Get them back again.
Yeah. But like, especially when we know the X-Men aren't going to be really, really utilized for a few more years in the MCU,
Yeah.
and the array of powers that X-Men have, you could absolutely give an anime studio Gambit and just go have some
Yeah.
fun.
Well, here's the thing: it's like people have loved X-Men '97. People do enjoy the What If series.
Hmm.
Like Marvel's Visions helps fit into that. It's a far-fetched wish, but you never know. We might get surprised.
I've got a feeling we wouldn't get Marvel Visions until they're done with What If.
Probably
Sadly.
right. Yeah.
Because that's more likely to end up being one show together.
Yeah.
But let's get on to some Star Wars predictions. Now, I've only got
Yes.
2, but I'm also not as deep
I've
in
got
the
a few.
Star Wars versus you.
Go on.
So,
What's
lay 'em on
your
me.
main one? Oh well.
Okay. Main one, I think this is basically guaranteed, is the Skeleton Crew trailer.
Yeah. So that's on my list as well. I think with our
I'd be shocked if we don't get that.
yeah, I think that's definitely going to get shown. We got a couple of new photos or whatever, first looks the other week. It wasn't at San Diego Comic-Con. I reckon maybe a teaser, and then I should really look up when the next Star Wars celebration is.
That's normally earlier in the year, so I imagine that'll be what, March next year?
Yeah, but 2025 April.
There you go.
Is the next one, and Skeleton Crew's out way before then.
It's out before the end of the year.
Yeah, so okay, then I wouldn't be surprised if we get a full-on trailer then.
Yeah, I'd be amazed if we don't get a Skeleton Crew trailer.
I think we get maybe some details on Andor season 2.
That's my other prediction, Andor season 2 update. And part of that's prediction, part of that is if they don't give me an update on season 2 of Andor, I might start tearing hair out.
No, I think there's a solid chance that we get some info on Andor season 2. So my other things, I would be surprised if we don't get a first look at the Mando and Grogu film.
When's that due to come out? Is that 2026 or 2025?
I want to say it's next year, 2025.
2026 film.
Okay. But I wouldn't be surprised if they show something or some discussion around it.
Scheduled to enter production this year.
Do
you know what the big problem with that film is? Pedro Pascal has got his finger in a lot of pies at the minute.
But it doesn't matter for Mando because he's got. Remember nowadays with all the helmet on, he actually just does the voice. He doesn't actually on set filming much.
I get that, but it's just like I don't know if they would have because some of the earlier bits will still need him, and there will no doubt be a scene where he does take his helmet off in the film.
Well, yeah,
there is no way in
the thing
2026 we're getting a feature-length film where the main superstar and Pedro Pascal is now an A-list actor. Doesn't show his face.
Here's the thing: he's at the Marvel Studios. It's probably round the corner now from the Star Wars one. So it's like
if we get a shot in Mando and Grogu
of
the
mustache
Pedro Pascal with the fucking Reed Richards white lines in his hair, I'm gonna crack up laughing.
Someone like he forgot to shave the mustache off or something.
Yeah, it's gonna be brilliant. But yeah, it'd be nice to get an update on that at least, even if it's just like some concept.
Yeah, well, Mando, and then also like far-fetched, but maybe I think this is more likely to get saved for a Star Wars celebration. Would be some info on the Rey film and some info on the Dawn of Jedi, but I think that is Star Wars celebration stuff.
Yeah,
because Mando's so strongly tied with Disney Plus, whereas the other ones are not.
They're straight up films. They're not connected so much. Yeah, I agree.
Also, something on Ahsoka season 2 maybe would be nice. We know they've been deep in the writing and storyboarding, even if it's just this is the new the person we've casted to replace thingy for Bale and Skull.
Yeah,
like some info on new castings, how like where they're at maybe with the story. Then in the animated world, these are all I don't know, but I think we get something animated announced. I think most likely it's another Visions.
Vision season 3. I mean,
yeah,
because
they've done well. Obviously, similar to the Marvel, I have the flip. I'd love a Star Wars What If. I've said that before. I think if they're gonna go do anything to continue the Clone Wars series. I said this during Bad Batch. I think the next step in that story is to follow Captain Rex. If they're going to announce anything, it'd be pretty fucking cool if they announced, oh yeah, we're doing an animated Captain Rex story that fills the gap between the end of Bad Batch and into where he
So
ends up.
here's the thing. Star Wars animation, I will be very happy with another Visions. I'll be happy if they announce like the next Tales of spin-off or whatever. But as fun as them anthologies are, I like an ongoing series. And Star Wars animation is so good in that regard. I'm going to be quite upset if they don't at least confirm they're working on the next ongoing one.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love a Captain Rex just for like a season or two. I feel like that's the only thing they've got left that bridges the gap in the story. I think I would love for them to start a whole new, like, Acolyte is delving a bit into a different time period. People do enjoy it. I would love an animated series that's way back in like the Sith Empire.
Yeah.
Give us a taste of that in animated. You can have a lot of fun with it. We've always said animated is great for showing off the Force and lightsaber duels. It could be really fun. I don't know if they do, but
yeah, I completely agree. The only other thing I've got down, games. We got Star Wars Outlaws coming out at the end of the month.
Yeah.
We didn't get updates other than Marvel Rivals at San Diego Comic-Con.
True.
And I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, that Marvel Rivals said they also had more to show us at D23.
Wouldn't surprise me then.
So I think we're getting more from Marvel Rivals at D23. But I think we're also... I'm hoping also to get the last bit of marketing for Star Wars Outlaws. There is a Fortnite and Disney coalition update. I don't know what that's going to be about, but there is one. And I would like to get another update on the Captain America Black Panther World War II game.
Yeah.
Because I need it.
Yeah, no, I think there's obviously the Fortnite thing. I saw that was announced, which I imagine is going to go into a bit more detail about what they're doing together.
Yes. Because they gave them like $1 billion for something.
Yeah. I think Marvel Rivals, maybe they announced like a proper open beta or something.
That'd be good.
Cool.
Or just a full release would be great.
Yeah, that. But yeah, I think something like to do with the Black Panther game would be cool. So just some game stuff would be nice, yeah.
Yeah, just let us know what you're working on. Disney have said they want to treat the game space with a bit more love, so give us something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is D23.
Find out next week if we're correct.
Yeah, I mean, by the time this has come out, you'll know some of if we're correct or not, because it starts on Friday.
True.
Hopefully we've smashed it out of the park, but we will wait and see. Right, this is one that I'm very passionate about.
TV. Passionate about things.
Yeah, it's like we mock me, and like I accept the mocking from all of the friends about how passionate I get about things. I think the world's a much more boring place if you don't get unreasonably passionate about things. And this is something that has bugged me for a little while, and over the last kind of year, it's got even worse. So we're going to talk about it while we have a gap in content here. Yep. We're going to talk about it. How long should series be? Now, Horry was a little bit, rightfully so, confused about the way how I phrased this point, so I'm going to clear it up off the bat. How many episodes should be in a season of a series? Because I only realised that in the last year or so that a series is actually like a show.
Yep.
And a season is each, as I would think of it, series of that. Right. So I think of a series as like series 1, series 2, series 3. I always thought it was very American to call them seasons, but I realised that was actually me being just a bit backwards, which happens. So yeah, how many episodes should be in a season of a series? So I'm going to go through what I've got written down here.
Okay.
About like how I kind of roughly view it. Obviously, nothing's black and white, but this is in my head what makes sense. So mini series, as in this should only be one season realistically.
Right.
and it's designed to be mini and short. 6 episodes. The only people I've ever seen pull off 6-episode seasons regularly and to a good level is the BBC.
Yeah.
I've never seen the Americans pull off 6 episodes. Never once.
That's because they like to do things bigger.
Intense story taking place over a few days up to a couple of weeks. 10 to 13 episodes.
Okay.
So if you want it really fast paced and you want to feel like the person never has a chance to catch their breath, I'm okay with it being 10 to 13 episodes.
Yeah.
A mystery story that's slightly slower pace, where you want to keep the viewer guessing, 13 to 20.
Okay.
If they're not like constantly sprinting and trying to catch stuff, and like there's like almost like beach episodes, if you will, where they're kind of like, oh, we need to try and find a lead here. You've got to be getting to that like 13 at the bottom end, and you can take it all the way up to 20, I think, before you're pushing it. Kind of different story each week with little hints towards a larger story. Your more traditional kind of show. Your kind of what do they call them? Algorithm shows. I forget what the proper name for them is. Procedurals. Should always be 20 plus episodes. I've seen this thing now where they're trying to do procedural shows that are like 12 episodes. I'm like, you're a procedural. If you can't write 24 decent procedural episodes for a season, go home.
Yeah.
And sitcoms should always be 20 plus episodes.
Well, yeah.
Rick and Morty trying to get away with 10 episode seasons when the quality isn't blowing everything else in the space out of the water. Unacceptable. Family Guy has been doing 20 plus episode seasons for 20 years now, and it is still funnier than most other sitcoms out there.
Yeah.
You've got if you can't make me laugh for 20 episodes, we've got an issue. So that's kind of like rough guidelines how I view how long a season should be. But right now we're getting like The Acolyte, which is like 10 episodes, which is kind of right, but they were half-an-hour episodes.
Yeah. Now I'm similar places with you on things.
You don't massively disagree with any of them kind of
No,
boundaries.
I hadn't thought about miniseries, but when you started saying miniseries, I was like, 6 episodes, which is exactly what you said. The closest thing I can think of recently was Echo.
Yes, and that was actually a good example of it.
Yeah,
that one
it worked really well.
That took place over like 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was like really intense. Like literally, you felt like Jesus Christ, give Echo a chance to sleep. That was literally the only way to make 6 episodes work.
Yeah, but it was what it only needed to be. I have like general stories that are similar to like Acolyte and that sort of a show where we're big gaps between seasons. The story is not going to be a really long running story. It's probably only going to be a handful of seasons. I had like 12 to 13, which obviously Acolyte, like you just said, the episodes were shorter. It would have been nice if they were close to like 40 minutes each. And we'd got maybe 12, but I'm okay with 10. And then I kind of lent on kind of what I took in, like my idea of what I enjoy is also kind of comes from anime. They're long running stories often.
Sorry, one sec. Acolyte was actually only 8 episodes.
Oh. Why do we?
It was 8 episodes. It was 8 episodes,
at
half an hour an episode. That's 4 hours. I'd sit down and watch a 4-hour movie. So why did that need to be that short? Do you know what I mean?
I feel like they could have done a little bit longer.
Either you've got to make that at least a 13-episode season if you want to keep 30-minute episodes, or it needs to be 10-hour-long episodes. Otherwise, like, they are dangerously close to just, it should have been a film.
Yeah. But with, like, longer series, I kind of have in my head, anime does it quite well, where it'll be, some series will be, like, 24 episodes long. Often, because obviously it's animated, they'll do 12, have a mid-season break, come back and do the next 12. Which is fine. I'm okay with that. And then, yeah, similar to what you said about like sitcoms like Family Guy and those sorts of shows, yeah, they should be 20 plus. Like, they should be smashing them out. Like Rick and Morty doing 10. I mean,
And the other big thing that's coming up recently as well is the amount of times between these seasons. So you'll get like, say, the Acolyte, for instance. It will probably be 2 years until we get the next season of that, if we get another season.
yeah.
18 months at best for 4 hours.
Which is basically having a film and then getting the next film 2 years later.
Yeah, like that is crazy for a television show. Like, if they were doing it as a film, they're like, here's a 4-hour film, then 2 years later it's another 4-hour film.
I think
you're like, okay, that makes sense. But bearing in mind, we used to get, and like, this sounds so boomer of me, we used to get a 24 episode season, and then 8-9 months later you would get the next season that was also 24 episodes.
Well, yeah, it's so I think this is like Disney, especially, and with Disney Plus, is they wanted to get into doing TV, and I think what they've done is they wanted film quality, but they wanted to sell a TV format. So their response to that was like, well, we just take what would be a film story. This is basically would have been a film 5 years ago, but we want it in a TV format, so we just found a way to chop it up into like 6 to 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, you're calling it a TV series, but it's not really fitting what people expect for a TV format.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. It's like, if you think to shows like when, and like all the CSI shows, there was like fucking 5 of them, but each one was like 20 plus episodes a season, and it's like there was never really downtime because those shows were constantly in. They were filming the next episode while one's being edited, and it was like there was like a 5 episode kind of stagger or whatever that meant it just was constantly put out.
And do you know what the crazy thing is here? Part of it is because of the BBC. Because they put out shows like Line of Duty and that, which are like genuine TV masterpieces. And that is a 6 episode season, and then you don't get anything for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of become this thing now that, you're only going to get 6 episodes every 2 years. People are like, it's going to be really good then. So I think part of it, not all of it, part of it is this idea of, okay, well, if we tell them it's going to be 8 episodes and they're going to wait, they're going to assume it's better than it is. And it's like, it's seen as like this prestige badge, like, oh, we're not doing too many episodes. We don't want to be like that police show that just does 1 million episodes a season. And as a result, like, if you're going to go, oh, right, I'm going to do a 10 episode season, you've got to be bare quality.
Well, yeah, I think you're right there. It's sort of this,
because there's like a prestige in this weird small amount of episodes.
Since the streaming era, it's kind of become a thing of like, well, we need to stand out from TV. TV is known for just non-stop episodes. They're kind of mid-level with like the odd ones in a season are like fucking bangers, but generally the overall quality is like, yeah, this is like a mid-level quality but solid, enjoyable show. People just expect that I can binge these episodes. I'll just put them on TV and I can watch like multiple. They're like, we need to separate ourselves. We'll do like less episodes, but film quality, and we can really sell ourselves as like a quality project. Like you're saying, where partly comes from the BBC doing it. I think we also then, it started to happen with like Netflix started laying the groundwork with Stranger Things was only like 12 episodes long or whatever.
Yeah, Daredevil, all of like the Marvel stuff on Netflix was 13 episode seasons, but they were all like 55-minute episodes. That is absolutely fine to me.
Yeah, I think it's just that stuff set the precedent for the streaming TV style, and it's just got diluted as these things do. It's wild because it is also sort of not to the same degree, but it has happened a bit in anime because. From my understanding of the space, yeah, it used to be like 24 episode seasons, but because certain studios have, such as Mappa, which have sort of bought out all the big anime manga rights and doing all the big wanted shows, they're overworked. So now it is a case of like, yeah, you get 12 episodes, and then you're going to have to wait a couple of years because they've got this other show they now need to do. And it's kind of slowed down output because the quality's there, but the staff isn't. So it's that same issue, but in a different realm in a way.
Yeah. It's insanity. Again, I don't want to give Family Guy too much airtime here for no apparent reason, but there's an episode in Family Guy that always like boils in the back of my head when I think about this, where Peter gets a bunch of boxes that track what people watch on TV,
Right.
which is like kind of how they get the information about what America wants to watch.
Mm.
And you're only supposed to have one box as a family, and he steals like 100. So he can like skew the statistics so that he can control what gets watched on TV.
Got you.
And he destroys TV. Because obviously one person's opinion isn't good for TV.
Yeah.
So then he goes in to fix it and he sits down and he's like, I need you to make 3 police shows that are 24 episode seasons. I need you to make 2 workplace sitcoms. I need you to make shitty reality TV. 1 on dating, 1 on trashy people, 1 on rich people. Go. And it's like you need a well-rounded amount of stuff for TV to actually be enjoyable. And I'm kind of sat there and I'm like, yeah, obviously it's a joke that like TV has a bunch of stuff that's like all samey. But at the same time, you do actually need it so that when something comes around that is 10 episodes, you're like, why are you doing less episodes there? What are you trying to do? If you look at Game of Thrones, they were 10 episode seasons until near the very end. Breaking Bad was 12 episode seasons. They are all-time great shows. How dare you think that you can get away with doing 8 30-minute episodes?
Oh, yeah. It's like, if I think back to season 1 of Game of Thrones, like, I like had to sit down and watch, like that was a solid day to like watch that through in one go. Could binge so like Acolyte in an afternoon.
Yeah, I'm not being funny right now. If we weren't recording right now, I would sit here and I would go through Disney Plus and I would work out like actual watch time, cutting out the bit at the beginning where nothing's happening and the credits at the end, and work out the actual run time of Acolyte. And I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Acolyte. This just Acolyte is very recent memory. And I'd be willing to bet actual runtime of them 8 episodes is about 3.5 hours. I've watched films longer than that, so why did it need to be formed in that way? And it comes down to a problem we've discussed a lot on this podcast about pacing of shows. How many times have we gone, this season would have been better with 2 more episodes?
Well, yeah, this is the thing that
we may as well have it on a t-shirt.
But it goes back to what I said, which was I think Disney Plus or Disney is doing the thing where they're like, they know how to write, they know how to make films. They have done for years, but they wanted to get into TV, and it's like, well, this would be a Star Wars film. Let's chop it up for TV, but they don't realize there's different pacing for film than there is for TV because it's over like episodes. They've gone for this 6 to 8 where really it should be 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And I think they are like, we're seeing them slowly getting better. And like things are getting longer and feel like they're listening. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. Maybe they do slowly slip back and realize, oh wait, no, what was done in the past for TV is what works and what people need. Like we don't need to change it. It works fine.
Do you know what's really driven this point home for me?
Well,
We've gone back to watch Netflix, Daredevil, season 1. Me and Jenna hasn't watched all of the Netflix stuff.
Right.
So we're going back through to watch all of it in chronological order as it came out. Because it, for the most part, it is good. And just rewatching Daredevil, we're just coming up to the end of season 1, which was 13 episodes. They were all like 55 minutes long. I'm like, don't get me wrong, there's some good stuff that Disney have put out. But the pacing just is nowhere near as solid as Daredevil was.
I do think
it's a big problem.
I think it is slowly coming back to, and hopefully it has actually changed because we know the writing rooms have changed since the strikes, which is mainly like I feel like Star Wars stuff like Acolyte would have already been done and stuff.
Yeah,
we're in that weird limbo now where we're going to see the end of that stuff, whereas we know Daredevil got a complete restart with fresh writers. Hopefully, that is people coming in that are like, no, this is how you write TV. Like this is better TV.
Do you not remember how insanely confident, happy, but also dubious we were when originally we were told Daredevil Born Again was going to be 24 episodes.
Oh
We're
yeah,
like,
we were
that
so
sounds
excited.
lit, but I don't believe it. And obviously, it's not the case anymore. It looks like it's going to be very similar to how Netflix did it, which was 13
Yeah,
episodes.
which is
Um,
still better than we've had.
Absolutely fine. It's that with it, they've got a lot of the people who worked on the original show on Netflix. They know how to make it 13 episodes work in a compelling way, so I'm not too worried. But I don't think people realise how big a difference 8 episodes and 13 episodes is.
Do you know what I also think it's come from is the early days of streaming. We got binge culture, which I know you're very much against.
Fucking hate binge culture.
And like, obviously, I have the time. I don't care. I'll happily sit and binge a show. But I do think also the less episodes is to cater to that. It's easier for someone to binge through 3.5 hours of Acolyte than having to have an extra hour and a half on top of that for 3 more episodes.
Let me be clear: if you enjoy binging content, I'm not against you. My problem is streaming services dropping it for binging, so dropping all the episodes at once. That's what I'm against. If you're like, I like to binge shows, so I'm going to wait till the show is out and then binge it all, I actually don't mind that.
Well,
if that's how you want to enjoy content. What I don't like is streaming services going, oh, we're going to drop this for bingers, because it affects the quality of the show in the sense of they always cut it just to make you want to watch the next episode, even if it doesn't make any sense. And also, it means if a show's really good, it gets forgotten about quicker. There's no time to talk about it because it'll be really good. It all drops on Thursday or Friday. Me and you binge it over the weekend. We talk about it 1 week on the podcast, and we move on from it, ready for the next thing. So if it's 10 episodes, 1 a week, that's 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Of us getting to break down every episode and get to theorize about what's coming next, and we get to be excited about what's coming next.
I know you didn't watch Game of Thrones, but imagine if Game of Thrones was done as binging. People would have been...
It wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful.
No, because people were talking about that like week on week.
2.5 months a year while Game of Thrones was out, there was a new episode of Game of Thrones, and the entire internet spoke about it. It's the exact... like, think about it now. I get it's massive, but Love Island... daily episode, because it's reality TV, they can't obviously drop it all at once for a binge. And it dominates social media because everyone's talking about it live as it's happening. I don't understand why Disney isn't like, oh, we want that. We want, and like Prime Video, we want people to be talking about our show for 2.5 months every Wednesday and Thursday.
I mean, I think Disney is going to go that way because they do the weekly releases, and I think Daredevil could be the first step of this getting better with them doing the 12 episodes or whatever. I think Prime, it's a struggle because Prime does a mix. Sometimes they've done weekly, sometimes they drop it all at once.
Yeah, so Prime have like 3 different styles of release. They do a drop all at once. They do 2 episode premieres, then weekly, or they do batch releases, which is like 2 episodes, 2 episodes, 2 episodes, 2 episodes. I don't mind a double bill release. We discussed that before.
Yeah.
I think if it's a brand new show, that's a really good way to get people invested by giving them a bit more to watch. So the first episode is normally a setup. The second episode gives you a bit of idea of where the show goes, and then people can decide whether they want to watch it or not. That makes sense to me. And then the weekly release allows people to be excited for the show.
I also
Let
don't
people be excited again.
I also don't hate the double bill for like following seasons because it helps get you back. If it's been a year or so, it helps get you back into the show.
Yeah. That's what Reacher does. They do a double bill release because each season of Reacher is a brand new story. Yes, it's the main character that is the same, but it's because it's based on a brand new book. It's a brand new story. So they go, here's the double bill so you get a feel for what the story is this season.
Yeah.
And then you'll be hooked, you'll be excited, you'll go next week. Dropping everything all at once screams to me a lack of confidence in your product. You don't think people are going to turn up next week for the episode. You want them to just sit down and watch it all in one go.
I think it's also from those people that like they're still stuck with the mindset of what Netflix has done. So they think that is what people want now, and I think people are starting to shift back. I think Prime...
One day Netflix will answer for their crimes of binge culture.
I think Prime is going to... I think we're going to see more shows switch to the episodic because Prime will probably start to have those numbers to show people to be like, look, this is the retention our daily weekly release shows get. Because I presume that all comes from a discussion with them. They'll be like, how do you want to drop your show? These are what we do it these few ways, and the showrunners pick one. But like they'll probably get to a point where Prime's like, yeah, look, these are the shows that we release weekly. This is the retention they get over this time. Here's what happens if you drop it all in the first week. And then I think slowly they'll start shifting back to the weekly.
Yeah, I agree. But it's got to change for sure.
Just to brief, obviously we talked a lot about episode lengths of a series. I think we should also mention just seasons of a series, because we have seen it in the past where shows go on too long, too many seasons. I also think there has been occasions where shows have tried to do it in too few seasons.
I have such strong feelings on this.
I think my attitude is always decide what your story is, do as many seasons as is required to tell that story in the best possible way, and then end it. If you want to stay in the world and do more with that world, but it is a second set of characters, start it as a new show. It is a new story.
So I have a particular show that I like to pick on for this exact example.
Okay.
It's a show. It's a very small show. You probably won't have heard of it. Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
Grey's Anatomy was a very good TV show when it first came out.
Mm.
It dealt with the dramas and the highs and the lows of working in a hospital.
Mm.
Here's the problem with any kind of drama. The drama can never get smaller.
Nope.
And then when you get up to, I believe they're on their 21st season of Grey's Anatomy now. At that point, you have to have the most insane shit imaginable going on every week.
Mm.
So, like, I've given Jenna a lot of shit for this, because she claims she wants to watch, like, better TV and less just crap TV. But she'll then put on these things where it just has the most... it starts off good, and then by the end, it's just these most insane plot twists every single episode, because they don't know how to, like, slow down the drama they've created for themselves. And it's like, they're the kind of shows that you get out after 4 or 5 seasons. I've said it about The Bear already. If The Bear gets to season 6 or 7, it is going to fall off a fucking cliff, because it's already such a dramatic show. And like we've already said, drama can't go down. What does The Bear look like in season 8 with it constantly getting more and more dramatic? You're going to have nukes going off in the kitchen.
No, yeah, I think The Bear, I'm pretty confident in their ability to know when to end it. I mean, no, I'm with you. I think shows like Grey's Anatomy, I guess a lot of the CSI ones kind of bordered on the line. Some of them did it okay, some didn't. Realistically, should have taken a page out of the UK's book on soaps. Like, if you want to do a show that long running, you need to write it in the format of a soap, less of a drama.
But even
don't
soaps
get me wrong.
like suffer from the same idea of bullshit. But
don't get me wrong. The soaps still have their
soap.
crazy, but they also, it's also perfectly normal to have like a few weeks where there's not really anything crazy happening. It's just all drama between characters, sort of what you expect from a soap. There's one show in my head that actually did too few seasons.
Okay.
Game of Thrones.
I mean, I was happy that when everyone stopped
Yes,
talking about
I know.
it, but...
Everyone, but you'll know, everyone says seasons 1 through 7, great show, amazing. They absolutely killed themselves with season 8. The reason season 8 was such a shot in the foot was 2 parts. One, they'd reached the end of the books that were written and George R.R. Martin hadn't finished, and they were like, well, we want to finish this show. So they kind of winged, like they started to, he gave them the footnote sort of thing, and they kind of filled in the gaps. So they didn't have the material to work with. My other issue was, for 7 seasons, we'd had a very set format of how the speed at which characters had developed. Suddenly in season 8, lots of characters developed very quickly. And it was gone from 10 episodes for the season 7 to 8 episodes for season 8. So suddenly it was just like, oh, we're going at this pace, and then boom, all this shit just happens. I think they made the thing of there's all this hype around it. We're getting close to the end of the story. We need to wrap this story up. Really, it should have been another 2 seasons at least.
So, I imagine, being British, that you are aware of the British comedy show called Fawlty Towers.
Yes.
Very iconic.
Yes.
Like, incredibly iconic. Do you know how many episodes there were?
Not that many.
12.
Yeah, it's similar to like Monty Python and stuff, where there's only actually like 8, if that.
There was 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers across 2 seasons, one in 1975 and one in 1979. I would rather shows leave early than leave late. My real concern about this is we will never get another Breaking Bad. Because what you get now is, like, even you talking about, like, staying in the universe if you want to. Breaking Bad worked because in, like, the first episode, they're like, you're going to die of cancer. There's nothing that can be done to stop that.
Yeah.
And then the show ends, spoiler alert, with him dying of cancer.
Mm.
And you go, right, there was 6 seasons. He's dead now. The show's over. You knew he was going to die. It doesn't mean the story to get there was any less thrilling and exciting. But they were like, we said he's going to die. Whereas now, I feel like in season 5, they'd be like, oh, cooking meth cures cancer. And they'd find a way to keep him going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There are some shows that do it right. Like, I mean, The Boys is an example. They clearly want to make more in that world. They're making the spin-offs.
Yeah.
Obviously...
They're getting very close, though.
Well, yeah, but, like, as long as the spin-offs don't go too crazy, like, I'm okay with them doing new standalone stories in the same world. Like, that's basically what the MCU is. But, like, say the Boys have been like, oh, it gets to the end of this story, and they're like, no, we're gonna now go, oh my god, flashback, and we're back in it's The Boys season 8, but it's actually set as a prequel. Like, that shit would have just been dumb.
No.
But yeah, there is obviously some shows run on too long. I do think some shows rush their endings, which then hurts it, like Game of Thrones.
I completely agree. As a general rule, if you want to be a dramatic show, and don't get me wrong, a lot of the dramatic shows that go on too long are very good for the first 5 or 6 seasons.
Lost.
Just know to get out at the right time.
Yeah.
This is and like, don't get me wrong, for a long time it's seen as a very American problem. I don't think it's solely an American problem anymore. But for a long time it was seen as an American problem. Friends. You could condense the last 3 seasons of Friends into one really good season.
Yeah. I mean, even Friends, they got themselves out. Like, nowadays, I think they would have kept that show going.
Yes. How I Met Your Mother, of all modern sitcoms, don't get me wrong, the ending I know is still controversial, but they kind of got out at the right time.
They did.
Again,
but,
them last 2 seasons probably could have just been 1 season.
Yeah, but like, again, they'd set the precedent of like, this is his kids being told how he met. Like, there was a set end point of like, when I meet your mother. So
Modern Family did okay, because they had kids growing up. That was giving them new stories to tell, so that kind of worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bigger problem with sitcoms and dramas, like police shows. Like, by the end of a normal police show, you will start a police show that is just like 2 detectives, and like there's nothing that crazy. And by the end of it, these 2 detectives, who should be pretty normal by all accounts, have led the 2 most traumatic lives that have ever been lived, and they just act normal still. And it's like, no, that amount of trauma would put them in a mental health home. They wouldn't be able to function as normal people still. But you don't know how to get yourselves out of the situation.
I will say the 2 of those sorts of shows that I feel did it okay was CSI New York, because I used to watch that a lot, and they had their characters. Some of them characters like properly like developed with some of the stuff that happened, and like some left and different things because of like shit.
That's the only way to get a show like that to go on long, is for the cast to rotate. When you're like, that character's been through so much shit now, they've got to go away.
The other was NCIS, which also had certain characters be like, no, I'm retired, but then they did the drama thing of like, oh, they've had to come back for this certain thing. But like that eventually came to an end, and it's like they had some of the team change and like different things. But again, definitely they got away with it a bit more because NCIS was all around the military. So it's like you can kind of get away with a bit more wacky stuff going on more regularly because like, oh, that doesn't surprise me. It happens in the military. But yeah.
Do you want my god honest opinion
Go on.
for the only things I think like can go on indefinitely as long as the writing stays good? Like the drama and the weirdness of it doesn't affect it as long as the writing is still good.
What's that?
Family Guy, because it's been batshit crazy from day one, so it can always be batshit crazy. That's not a problem as long as it's still funny. And superhero media, because they've been writing Spider-Man comics for 60 years. If you can't find a way to adapt that into like meaningful stories for 60 years, that is a writing issue. That's not a story issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have separate issues there of like actors, so it's more likely it has to be animated. But if it's animated, that makes it even easier because you can kind of just do shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah.
Which is why I think animes tend not to go on too long, because like the One Piece anime, they no, but like yeah, there's a fuck ton of episodes, but no one's going, oh, One Piece needs to end now, because they're literally just adapting the manga one for one.
Well, yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. As long as the manga for One Piece is good, the show is going to be fine.
Yeah, this thing with anime is like, it's rare they will do something that's not a manga. Or if it is, well, they'll do shows that aren't a manga, maybe that are original, but like they will never, from what I know, they don't go past a manga if it is a manga being adapted.
Exactly. Which means the writing is solid, otherwise it wouldn't have gone on that long.
Yeah.
Which means as long as they adapt it like One Piece is doing for like a one for one, they're just taking a manga, and making it an animated production. It means that you can rely on that being good as well, because you know that's good. Like, is the One Piece anime not currently caught up to the manga, and that's why there's no episodes coming out right now because they're waiting for the manga to release more?
Possibly.
Like,
I forget
and
which.
this is my thing.
Is it I think it is One Piece where it's like he said, "Oh yeah, you've only just finished the prequel." There's one of them where there was like a crazy number of episodes, and it's like, "Yeah, that's the prequel done. Now we're actually getting into the story." And people are like, "Wait, what?" Yeah. We haven't even started the actual main story yet.
Yeah. And that's my issue with shows. They don't know when to get out at the right time, and like soaps, like you said, of like how they go on for like 60 years. The thing is, when they, like you say, they'll have 6 weeks where it's just normal, like human, real drama of, oh, you were very mean, so I'm not talking to you. So then when there's a big bit of drama that is still human, like a love affair,
yeah,
that is a big spike. But with soaps, they bring it back down to normal afterwards. They don't get caught in that trap of Grey's Anatomy and police shows, or the next bit of drama has to be bigger than the previous bit. Yeah. They're like, no, everyone just goes back to living their fucking life.
Also, like, I feel with British soaps, yes, there are some characters that have been around forever in those shows, but a lot of them do move on and they bring in fresh ones. Like, they have they allow a natural rotation.
Cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a large cast, for sure.
But yeah, there's definitely improvements to be made in the streaming world of TV.
And with that being said, as I've said before, I'd love to write a comic. I will come and help write a TV show. I'll fucking do it. I can't. I'm not a particularly skilled writer, but I will be like a sounding board to work with good writers. I think I have a lot to offer, and I'll die on that fucking hill, ego or not. Right, let's get into some nerdy news.
Yes,
we've got
quite a bit.
Yeah, quite an array of bits as well.
Yeah.
Rumours from Daniel RPK, the solo journalist on Twitter, suggests any projects between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars will take place on Battleworld. Now, when we get closer to this, I'm going to do a number of bits about what you need to know coming up to Secret Wars. But right now, Secret Wars takes place on Battleworld, which is a kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of random crap. Basically, it was created just to be an awesome place for fights to take place. So that would mean Doomsday kind of ends with everyone getting transported to Battleworld, and any film that takes place in between happens on Battleworld. That would be fucking lit.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
conceptually, that's really cool.
it is, and it also allows them a lot of freedom if that's how they set it up, because it's like, yeah, you can do some stuff that you probably couldn't have got away with very well with the current stories.
But also, if they're like, this character is in position A right now, we need them to be in position B before Secret Wars. You're like, right, here's a film. We can use this to develop this character to where we need them for the next film, so that you don't get another Professor Hulk situation where everyone's like,
Yes.
he
When
couldn't
did that
transform,
happen?
and now they're one. It's like, I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah.
Robert Kirkman, showrunner for Invincible,
Yes.
says that the goal of Invincible is 7 to 8 seasons, as this would get them to the end of the comic run, according to Game Radar. This is what we discussed at the end of season 2. I said, I think based on what they're doing with the comics, that we should get like 7 or 8 seasons. So it's good to know my maths checks out, which is always nice. One thing that did concern me slightly, however, is that he said if Amazon are still happy with them and they're still having fun, they might go longer. And that's when you enter some dangerous territory.
I think
we've just finished discussing.
Yeah, I think if they have like direction from the original comic of like how to keep the story going, and it's not just their freeballing it, I think it could work okay. But again, like we discussed in the previous segment, like you don't want to overdo it and kill it off purely because you're having fun.
More franchise turmoil, not for DC or Marvel or Star Wars for a change though. Games Workshop investor report has suggested that Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40k project won't happen unless an agreement on creative guidelines is established with Amazon by December of this year.
If I throw you back, I'm pretty sure it was in a previous news segment a month or so ago now that I mentioned that there was rumors around the Warhammer project and Henry Cavill was maybe not happy, and there was a crossroad of direction. This leans heavily into that being true. The rumor back then was, and I presume it's still the same rumor, and actually what's going on, Amazon wants diversity in their shows. They essentially forced Workshop's hand to write into the law females being part of a certain Legion of Soldiers that were notoriously have always been written as they are brothers, they are all men. There is plenty of legions in Warhammer world where there is factions of women that are badass, but apparently Amazon didn't like them because they were too religious focused. Sorry, but Warhammer 40k is all about religion. That is the world you are trying to make a show in. Henry Cavill, we know him very well, always stands up for the core material. He did it in Witcher. We know that was a problem in Witcher for him.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if he's now being told, oh, he's seen that these changes are being pushed onto Games Workshop, and he's like, no, that's not the law. Why are you trying to change this? And now he's like, I ain't doing it unless you agree to let me do it properly. Yeah,
and like before anyone gets fucking weird in the comments, this isn't about Amazon trying to make Warhammer woke. Don't make it a woke thing. This is just them not going, okay, we can have diversity within the universe as it already exists. And that's the actual issue here.
Yeah,
it's not like Warhammer was made by a bunch of incels 60 years ago and there's no women. In that case, you'd kind of be like, okay, yeah, cool. Find a faction that makes sense and change it a little bit. There is already room for these characters to exist.
Yeah,
within the universe as it exists.
There's some pretty badass like female factions, but it's like apparently they were too religious in a world that is notoriously a religious based story.
But being from the investors report, this is also going to be very accurate to the truth, even if it doesn't give details. Purely because it's an investors report. If they've knowingly lied in this, they open themselves up to a fuck ton of lawsuits. And I remember not that long ago. I don't know if it made it into the No News Network or not. Games Workshop had like announced like record profits. They'd had a really good year. They'd given employees like bonuses and stuff. A good employer on the surface, it seems anyway. So in their investor report, them being honest and going, this show isn't going to happen, because an Amazon show would open Games Workshop up to a lot of investment.
Yeah,
and they don't want people investing assuming this show's going to happen, so they have to go, this show is not going to happen if we don't set guidelines by December, by the way.
I think the issue is probably Amazon's pushing this on Games Workshop. Games Workshop obviously wants this show to happen because they know it's good for investment, but Henry Cavill's standing strong for probably actually what the Games Workshop like OGs stand for, but can't necessarily stand against Amazon because it's like it jeopardizes the deal.
Yeah.
So Henry Cavill's doing it, but yeah, hopefully it gets sorted.
The Last of Us Season 2 teaser got released.
Yes, it
Another
did.
Pedro Pascal classic. We're coming into a decade of Pascal, it seems.
Yeah, with Gladiator 2 as well.
Gladiator 2, Last of Us, Fantastic Four, Grogan.
No.
My man is not having a day off from now until 2031.
I'm okay
Like,
with
on
it.
God. On God. The teaser trailer really didn't show much, but it's exciting. Season 1 was really, really good. And the good news for Pedro is he won't have too much to do with Season 2, so he'll be able to skip out pretty early.
Yeah.
Disney Plus have announced a price hike of $2 with their ad-free and ads plan.
Yeah.
This news broke 24 hours before it was announced that Disney Plus had finally been profitable for the first time ever.
It's wild.
In all fairness to the multi-billion-dollar corporation that I despise, it does seem like their profitable couple of months was due to two of the biggest films of the decade in Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. People wanting to see the films that came before, which were available on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because Inside Out 2's at like 1.5 billion now. Deadpool and Wolverine's expected to cross 1 billion this weekend. And people are like, oh, I'd like to watch the Wolverine films and the Deadpool films and Inside Out. But announcing another price hike, their fifth in 4 years, and they're now double the price that it was when it started, while also announcing that you've been profitable for the first time, is not the best ever way of handling something.
No, and I also said to you when this came out that it feels to me very much like everyone, for example, everyone knows Prime Day deals. Companies put their price up before Prime Day, drop them for Prime Day. We know Disney Plus is going to be doing a bundle where it's going to be cheaper if you get the three of us together. To raise their prices right before just feels like a push to be like, oh, well, we'll do this now. Then the bundle comes out and it seems like an even better deal. More people sign up. To that, we actually get more people signed up than we would have done just normally.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's just classic manipulation for marketing in my eyes.
I agree. Now, fun bit of news. There is apparently, hush hush, a secret Marvel animation project that is apparently in the works. Apparently, they've already invested $19 million into this project. I'm so curious. What I'm hoping for, and I don't think this is what it is because I'm not that lucky, is a Marvel animated universe. That would kind of make sense for that large an investment, why they're keeping it quiet. It might not be due to launch until like post-reboot in like 2027. And then they're like, right, we have now got live action, and then for you comic book nerds who are always unhappy with the films, we're going to do like comic book straight to animation over here.
I think we talked about it when X-Men 97 was coming out. And we had the Captain America cameo. And we're like, we mentioned from after episode, like, oh, what other animated shows? It wouldn't surprise me if it is a project that is going to essentially tie into that X-Men 97 world because of how successful it's been. But it's something like an Avengers or maybe a Fantastic Four, but I doubt it because the film's coming out.
Yeah.
It's going to be something on the same level, I think, of X-Men 97 and tie into, like, I think they're going to make that, like, almost like you're saying with an animated universe, potentially ties into that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Could be very cool. Daredevil animated.
I'd love a Daredevil animated show so much. Oh, do you know what I actually would love? Just an animated New York show where they just let, like, each episode is just a random one of the New York heroes from Marvel doing something. So there'll be like Spider-Man episodes and Daredevil episodes and Fantastic Four episodes and Jessica Jones episodes and Heroes for Hire episodes. And yeah, they're all cutting about in New York.
Yeah,
there's fucking loads of them. Just get them cutting about doing stuff. Speaking of animation, animation workers are getting ready to strike for better treatment from studios amid concerns primarily around AI protections and pay, as well as being overworked. That kind of comes into the pay bit, but it's not just you're underpaying us how much work we're doing, which they are. It's also you're asking me as an individual to do too much work while underpaying me for it.
From the posts that they've put out about organizing this, like they've mentioned the writers struck, got their answers, or got what they wanted. The actors did it. They took back in the day, the animators went on strike because they were the main like they were the lifeblood of Disney back in the day.
Yeah.
And they went on strike and got many of the benefits that the animators have today. It's just the same thing. We always will support this. The fact that as well, we've seen these studios have cut jobs. We know they're always they're hiring people in AI fields. They're looking into AI. Obviously, it's a big discussion around that, and that's a separate thing. But yeah, I'm all for the animators getting protection from AI and that kind of side of things.
Put it this way, I'm not someone to claim that my opinion on something is never ever going to change. But send me this clip if you ever catch me defending multi-billion-dollar corporations from their employees. Because it would have to be some pretty fucking extenuating circumstances for me to realistically ever go, I'm going to stand with the billionaire over the individuals here.
When I'm a billionaire, I'll make sure to make you stand with me.
I would curb stomp Hori if he's a shitty billionaire. Let that be known. Bite the curb, bitch. Yeah, we're always gonna back creative strikes, all kind of strikes. If you're the means of production, there's no reason you shouldn't own the thing or whatever the phrase is. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I said it back when the actors were striking. I was like, hopefully the animators and stuff get together and get their day, because we knew back then they were also getting treated poorly. So I'm glad that they've managed to come together.
At the end of the day, right now, animators are being given 16 hours of work. They're being paid for 8 hours, and they're being told to do it in 4. That is the situation, essentially. And they're going, that ain't going to run while you're also firing us and trying to use AI.
Yeah.
So stand by your animated studios right now. We got to support them here because I care about this stuff, and I hope the people who make it get the treatment they deserve. Because guess what? Without animators, we don't get our shows. Without Bob Iger, we still get our shows. You find out where you'd rather have the money going.
Yeah.
I said this earlier, but it is also a bullet point on here. Deadpool Wolverine is expected to cross $1 billion this weekend.
Yeah.
I believe the estimates are for its entire box office run that it's going to finish about 1.3, 1.4.
It's wild.
It has now gone past, I don't know if this already happened last week, but it's already gone past what's the film about Christ? R-rated Christ film.
I know what you mean.
Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ was the highest grossing R-rated movie in US, domestically in America ever, at 370 million for 20 plus years, and Deadpool and Wolverine overtook that.
Marvel Jesus.
This film is a whole other level.
We have a new Christ called Marvel Jesus.
if this, I believe, I don't know if it's already there yet, but if it crosses 1 billion, it will be the second biggest film of the year, only beside Inside Out 2. And once again, Inside Out 2 was made by animators, biggest film of the year. Maybe pay animators fairly. Blade is reportedly in a limbo state.
Now, this is going to be absolutely huffing the copium, but I am going to say this isn't a big as worry as it has been. I think the limbo state is there is a good script written. Finally, they just haven't locked in their director yet because we know they were looking for a new director. I don't think this is necessarily like a terrible thing. Yes, obviously it's not good. It's in limbo after all this time. But
shall I huff even more copium than you?
Go on.
I think this leak is actually part of the film takes place in limbo, and it's been misunderstood. It's not in a limbo state. It's just there's a scene in the film that takes place in limbo. That is me huffing copium.
Yeah, I think realistically, they're happy with the script now. They just need a director for that. And
I really hope so.
They haven't got one. They might be talking to a few. They just haven't locked one in yet. And obviously they can't start it till that's done.
One of my favourite casting decisions in the MCU is Mahershala Ali as Blade.
Being squandered.
He was announced as Blade 5 years ago. Tree, my man. Here's the thing. I know that this man will cook. I do not understand how you're struggling to make a film about the badass vampire hunter. Like, how is that difficult? Surely that is one of the easiest stories to write.
Who knows?
I'm at a loss. I need them to hurry up and fix this because Mahershala Ali is amazing, and we've already lost 5 years of him in his prime to get this shit done, and I feel bad for the guy.
I hope this goes down as like the biggest redemption story of the MCU. Purely because it's like everyone signed it off as like, oh, this has been a mess. And then it comes out and it's the absolute banger of a film it needed to be.
Has any film ever been in this much production hell and stuck the landing, though?
I'm sure there is. There's got to be.
The closest I think we've come is Channing Tatum finally getting to play Gambit.
I mean, he stuck the landing.
He did, but it wasn't in his own film.
I'll still take it.
Warner Brothers Discovery have revealed that their TV networks are worth 9.1 billion less than they originally thought,
which resulted in a 10 point something billion loss for quarter 3.
See, here's the thing. What that means is it was quarter 2 as well, I believe, actually. But that's irrelevant. Yeah. I think that just means like the company has lost 10 billion of value in quarter 2, and 9.1 billion of that is from them But I don't understand how you over egg your business by 9 billion. How do you sit there? Like, how does someone whose job it is go, I think this is worth X amount, and then a year later, 6 months later, whatever it is, go, oh, I was off by a factor of 9 billion.
So my understanding of how
this podcast is actually worth 9 billion.
Well, my understanding of how valuations work is a lot of the time it's based on how much a share sells for. Now
that'll be for WBD in general, though, not just their TV networks.
But so somehow someone's valued a portion of it. Well, because they will never sit down and do the whole thing because that's too accurate. They'll have taken like a portion and gone, we think this is about this value and this is this percent of Warner Brothers TV. Therefore, it is valued at this.
I do think a fair bit of this would be due to them not being able to sell ads as easily on TV in the last year. And a big portion of how much TV network is worth is how much you can sell your ad space for. And in the last 18 months, ad value on TV has gone through the floor. So I would imagine a fair bit of this value is down to that. But still.
There'll be a good chunk of this is due to the economy, and they've reevaluated in a down point of the economy, which is obviously going to hurt them more. But yes.
I'm also curious if their TV networks includes Max.
Possibly.
Because if it includes Max, I see where they may have over-egged their value.
Yeah, it possibly does.
but still not good.
Yeah.
Speaking of not good,
We're just on a roll here.
yeah, Borderlands has debuted
Oh.
with 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, with the score reaching 3% on Rotten Tomatoes at the time of writing. So when I was writing this 3 hours ago at this point, I checked Rotten Tomatoes. It had 33 reviews and a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes critic score. I have seen people say that Madam Web is no longer the worst film they've seen this year. I do struggle to believe that. What I will say is, when this film was announced, I was very excited because I enjoyed Borderlands. And then I saw the cast and I was much less excited. Then I saw the trailer and I was even less excited. And this needs to be noted, in the time since that trailer came out, the situation in Palestine has worsened, and Jamie Lee Curtis has been outed as a bit of a Zionist, which will hurt ticket sales. Jack Black has cut ties with a great friend of 30 years, and for the first time in my life, the internet is not a big fan of Jack Black at the minute, and he's a massive part of this film. And based on what I'm hearing, and these are of course just rumours, it seems like the original script was actually phenomenal for this. Then they hired a director who didn't want to follow the original script, made changes, casted people much older than he should have, and changed the script through his direction so much that the writer of the script originally has asked for their name to be removed.
I think also
So we're still going to see it, yeah, Harry?
I've also seen the fact that, like, and we probably said this back when the trailer came out, and we've said this with every video game adaptation, it's a fine line of getting references and too much of like oh, this is a video game, like this was in the game. Like, do that too much, it just becomes across as cheesy and like very 2000s.
By the sounds of it, they've gone the other way of just like, oh, it's Borderlands, and it's not.
Well, yeah, well, this is the thing. The other, what I've seen is they've gone trying to be a good reference of it, but then also it's like, this isn't R-rated, so all the gory and like comedy from the Borderlands games that we all love, they can't do. So they've tried to just throw in like references in other ways, and it's just like that just comes across as cheesy and too forced. And yeah, it's
really sad because we were genuinely both believing that video games were finally going to get the love on
we were
TV
on a good
and
streak.
cinema. We were on such a good streak.
I'll be honest.
I don't think that like The Last of Us and Fallout were outliers, but I think they just proved that you still need to get the right people in the right place.
I'll be honest. From the trailer, I would say that Jack Black as Claptrap looked great. I was like, okay, that part looks great. They may have nailed that. The other stuff, I was like, seems so. We'll see. But yeah, this just kind of.
But I also think while Borderlands does have a very rich universe of lore, the style of Borderlands comedy, I'm just not convinced would like work well on the big screen. I might like it if they did it really well on the big screen, but I feel like a lot of people wouldn't like that style of comedy on the big screen.
Yeah, I think it could work. Obviously, it'd have to be R-rated. I also actually think a big thing of Borderlands is its art style, and you lose that going. You just lose that going live action.
If people respected animation more, Borderlands is perfect for animated.
Yeah, you could do an amazing Borderlands animated film.
But people don't respect animation enough to pay for a video game IP to make a film of and then animate it.
Yeah.
Which sucks. Respect animation more and respect the animators who make it. We stand with them.
Speaking of respecting animators, screw the people that leaked all the Netflix animated stuff that's coming out. Like, those people were.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so a bunch of
we
Netflix,
won't discuss if it was leaked again.
Basically, Netflix had a big leak. Bunch of the animated shows that are upcoming, such as Arcane 2, that obviously lots of people have worked very hard on towards a release date. Bunch of shit got spoiled.
That's dreadful.
And then you get your Twitter account sharing it.
Yeah.
So. Warner Brothers.
That's infuriating. Yes, I think this is good news, although it will be concerning for some people, and I understand why.
Also depends on their valuation as well.
Yeah. Warner Brothers says they're looking into licensing their franchises to game studios outside their own. So Warner Brothers do have a game studio.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine them game studios might be a little bit nervous about this, because this is the kind of thing you do if you're maybe getting ready to shut down a division, which I hope isn't the case. I hope Warner Brothers just going, we've got a lot of really strong IPs, and we can't expect we don't want to make our game studio so big that they can work on all of these, so we're going to start licensing these out. Request number 1. The Flash. Give me a Flash video game right fucking now. Yesterday. Developers, I respect you and I know you need time. I need this game yesterday.
Do you know what this also feels like? What's an easier way to get a valuation back? Increase the size of your game studio that potentially will be making a bit of a loss, which then isn't looking good. Or you sell the license to your IPs to other studios, and then you go, oh, look at this.
And licensing agreements for IPs are incredibly valuable.
Especially if you're Warner Brothers and it's superheroes.
Well, I'm not saying it's Batman necessarily, but just Batman as a baseline. You could probably license that out for like $10 million, $50 million flat fee, and then go, and we also get 35% of the revenue. And if the game doesn't sell this amount, you lose the licensing straight away, and you still have to pay us the money, and then we can go and license it to someone else straight away. Whereas normally with a licensing agreement, it might be a 5-year licensing agreement, and we won't sell it to anyone else in that time, which means you'll have exclusive rights to Batman games.
Yeah, I mean,
like, there's lots of money in licensing.
It's a safer option for them.
Yeah, absolutely. They have nothing to risk. If they go out there and they just go, right, what superheroes is obviously like the easiest to make a game for, easiest. If they go out there and they license off Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, and go like, you can go make a trilogy of each of these games, that they can get like maybe up to 500 million in the bank, without any risk.
Yeah.
And if it goes wrong, they've already got like the upfront fee, and they can just license them to someone else.
I mean, also, this sets them up for knowing that James Gunn's DCU, he wants to venture into games and animated and have the voice actors and stuff be the same. This allows them to have more games in development for that if it's expanding and stuff.
Absolutely. Blue Beetle game, Booster Gold game, give it to me. Give it to me all now. Yesterday.
Imagine a Lanterns MMO.
Oh, that would be so well.
You could pick what faction you're part of.
Be so good. But that is it for us this week.
Yes.
We'll be back next week with much more stuff. D23.
Yeah.
Josh
D23.
is back with a bigger gaming news next week.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
See you next week.